is the
before I
English? And you just you have so much presence on stage.
For the first time I heard how heavy and fluttery my vibrato was.
Oh.
So in a song it would just be like, and he was like, that is the unique thing in your voice.
I
had never heard it.
I want to hear it again. What's the vibration?
No, it's like pennies in the street.
Welcome to yet another beautiful, amazing episode of The Friends I Keep. My name is Hlonela Lupuwana, and as you know, it is a brand.
Mm-hmm.
Now I wanted to ask you, my grandmother growing up, if you were good at something, as a kid, as a baby, and a visitor comes from, in Kenya we say shaks, in South Africa, as in Xhosa we say imakosini, and they're coming to visit, she'll be so excited to show everyone who walks in what you're good at. So you could be busy with your friends outside. When the guest rolls in, Hlonela, so then you must get into the mode of, you and your sister sing beautifully, your energy, you are in sync. Did your parents make you just come and sing every now and then?
Do you know what's funny actually? When we were younger, our parents called us in for the same thing, to dance.
Yeah.
And I remember talking to my sister about it, going, do you remember when we thought we were dancing to Bob Marley? And we as kids felt like we were making big moves. You know, as a child, a small movement feels so good that it feels so big.
Yeah,
and all we would do, we were bobbing our knees.
Yeah.
And you just, you know, actually the music was carrying us further than we were actually moving. So we were laughing at each other going, dude, all we were doing was just bobbing our knees.
You weren't doing any moves, huh?
Yeah, I think sort of us singing and our parents sort of noticing that we have a love for the music and that's what we want to do. You know, because we started with instruments first and sort of later in high school and university we're singing with groups and small groups and jazz groups and choirs and chamber choirs and traveling the world. And so they had to invest now, they had to be sure that
and you started
can
early.
sing. Yeah.
It's special that your parents saw and noticed and groomed the talent that you have. It
They
doesn't happen
really
often.
nurtured it. Yeah. They allowed us to do anything. Esther and I would be like, okay, want to play guitar now? Then my dad would buy one. If we're playing keyboard, he would buy a keyboard. So and then sang in the Northern Gauteng Youth Choir.
Oh, wow.
We went to the university we went to because of the choir. It was Choir of the World. They did competitions all over the place. We would travel with them, you know, to Europe and the US. So we definitely are more passionate about our voices as an instrument. And so we've been singing together since we were young. So one thing we did do that our parents didn't notice when we were young, childhood story, is that when we'd come home from school almost every single day, because our brothers were into video games and they would hog the TV and stuff. So we became readers. We would read poetry to each other. There was a childcraft encyclopedia. There was one specific book called Poetries and Stories. Well, Poems and Stories. My sister and I would like choose different stories to read back to each other.
Wow.
And then we would also sing the school hymn book from back to front. We enjoyed it, but it wasn't a priority to know whether it was good or wasn't good. So now I'm trying to remember what that felt like singing to each other. It's not like now when she smiles and I'm smiling back at her when we're singing, we have an acknowledgement of what we're doing.
Yes.
We were just doing it.
You were just doing
Yeah,
it.
you know, and it was just insane. So that's where our love started. I think we reflected our passion to each other and we reflected our voices to each other and we encouraged each other then in our bedroom at that time at home. And, you know, and that's when it all began. And I think a little bit later when we went to boarding school, we started realizing when people started giving us solos and things like that, oh, actually these people think we're good.
Yeah, someone's gonna pay me for this.
You know, and it takes time to acclimatize to your voice. I mean, I remember when I recorded my first EP, I asked like the producer, RJ Benjamin, I was like, dude, so like, what do you think people are gonna like about this music? Like, how's it gonna translate?
You're nervous. Are you nervous when you're hearing yourself?
Yeah, but you haven't even deeply heard yourself. So when he played back Misunderstood, which was my first radio single, he was like, can you hear that? I'm like, what? For the first time I heard how heavy and fluttery my vibrato was. So in a song it would just be like, and he was like, that is the unique thing in your voice. I had never heard it.
I want to hear it again. What's the vibration?
No, it's like, pennies in the street. You know what I mean? That's my vibrato. And it's a unique vibrato to me. It has a certain weight to it, has a certain timbre, has a certain tone. And I spent my whole choral life hiding it away because in classical music you have to.
Oh, you're not supposed to.
No, because we're singing in unison.
Yeah.
So I spent my whole life singing like clean and trying to clean up everything.
And so you were trying to be Beyonce. You wanted to be Beyonce this thing.
And I was never gonna be a pop artist, so I had to let this thing like free. You know, it's like a bird in my throat.
Yeah.
You know, everyone has a unique bird in them.
Yeah.
That's my bird.
Yeah.
You know, I was born with that bird. And I really like encourage people to let their voices sing as it was naturally born. Yes, there's something in music called dynamic, where you create dynamic by using the levels of your voice, the tone of your voice. You sing from the front to the back. And so yes, you can release it slowly, you can add at the ends of the song. So yes, there is technique in sort of making it all interesting, but don't hold your voice hostage. And so what happened was, so RJ was like that. And soon after I went, kind of quit the corporate world and decided to pursue music full time. That was 2011, 2012. And I went to musical theatre school in New York Film Academy. And there I discovered more and more like what other people were hearing about me. Can you imagine, this is only years ago. So you're learning your voice all the time, going, oh, is that the thing? And the more you perform and people come back and give you feedback, this is when you become just kind of solo and you take this seriously. And so what I discovered was learning, like singing music from like way back in centuries and early 1920s, jazz and you know jazz standards and musical theatre kind of like opens up to different spectrums of music and the versatility in your voice. And of course, like I pride myself in that versatility. I pride myself in that genre fluidity. But you know, they kept telling me, oh my God, so your voice goes back into this time. So they would select music from 1919
and just you're hearing yourself in all of these records.
It's basically you start to discover like ways to deliver what is essentially your authentic voice. And so I learned in that way to like really like lead with that and embrace it for what it is, and I've been forever changed since then.
Just that.
Yeah.
It's so lovely to have you on the front.
Cheers. Thanks for having me. I've been waiting for that because my throat was a little bit dry.
Sanitize that throat, please.
But don't sanitize those words.
What is the folklore project?
So the folklore project actually started off as I traveled and toured. There were moments where when you introduce yourself to people and to a new market, there is an essentiality that origin is actually important.
Yes.
So where you come from, your heritage is important. And for the first time, it allowed me to explore what that means, not to take it for granted because someone else actually appreciates it. Because I can't preach to the converted. In South Africa, we can all sing that song for preservation, but actually it's about sharing it. It's about a cultural exchange. So I started adding repertoire of like songs like Hlonela into my music ever so gently. And then it allowed me to explore how I want to write in those writing styles, how I want to use Xhosa, how I want to be percussive with my vocal, how I want to use those harmonies, how I want to use those rhythms, the triplets of the Mbondo people. And so it became almost like another self-reflection on identity. I started kind of doing folklore for kids, which is these sessions where we do performance workshops with indigenous instruments and teaching them different things, writing styles, and it's going to expand from there. Then folklore firesides is where I share a stage with different poets and people who express themselves around African spirituality, indigenous knowledge systems, etc., which is more for the adult crowd. African storytelling, to be very specific. And of course there'll be kids markets, etc. Hey, we'll promote
I think it's a special project, and I think it's really needed because our institutions, when you talk about schools from even like primary and middle school, high school, we don't offer enough. You are helping with the special projects with folklore community to preserve our history, to teach our kids about our history so they can, you know, pass that on to their kids. It's generational knowledge. It's
and
really
lineage
important.
is everything. And that's how it starts. We have to join the dots, you know, from the past to the future.
Pilani Bubu. Uthixo makabe nawe as you move.
Are we cheersing?
Better see cheersing now. You are a multi-talented human being. And thank you for sharing your craft with the rest of the world. And congratulations, Mani. I don't think you guys caught that bit about the awards. Did you get that bit about the awards? Isama, how does it feel? Award-winning artist?
It actually just feels like more fuel. You know, like right place at the right time, purposeful, keep going, and keep putting in the same effort. You know?
Didiguwe, Baba, Ndakandin, Baba. You're doing fabulously well.
Thank you.
I'll And then, if folklore community, as you head towards the festival and you enrich people's lives with history here too, I wish you well with that. I'm done.
Thank you.
I wish you well. And as you travel the rest of the world, sharing your craft with everyone and everywhere.
Everyone and everywhere. Hey, you know, I think I can touch everywhere before I die. Everyone and everywhere. Yeah, no, it's everywhere we want to be.